Good morning. This is your host, Kristi Slaughter on SuperTalk Saturday mornings, WFHG. Thank you for joining us today. Our next special guest, Mike Wright. If you don't remember Mike, he is the owner of Trained Wright K9. He was on the show probably maybe even a year ago. So it's a pleasure to have him here. I always love it when we have telephone guests and then they end up coming into the studio because it's completely different when they're face to face with us, isn't it, Rick?
It's a better experience.
It is. He was talking about the metamorphosis that you have made over the last several years since he's been listening to SuperTalk Radio.
Not me. I've not metamorphosized.
So it's pretty interesting when people don't see us face to face, or you're not on Facebook, and then you have this idea of what the voice is going to be like.
That's what I love about radio. Mike came in. He said, "You don't look anything like what I was expecting."
He actually told me that before you came in. Yeah, he's like, that's not. I said, I know he has a really deep voice. He tells people he's 6 foot.
6'8".
6'8".
I'm only 6'7", so I just add an inch.
Right.
Well, when you're my height, everyone's 6'7", so.
Yeah, he's a pretty private person. But I bring out a different side on Saturday morning, so it's a very relaxed show.
A little more relaxed.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here, Mike. It's a pleasure to have you in the studio with us today. If people didn't get to hear the first time that you were on, talk about your passion and what you do at Trained Wright K9.
Okay. We're a full-service canine facility. We train dogs in everything from obedience to protection, sport work, agility. We also are certified in behavior modification, so if you have a problem dog or an issue with your dog that you just can't take anymore, we try to help you through that and try to rectify that situation. And we also have certified and trained decoys, and when I say that, the people that do, for instance, people that have personal protection dogs or that have the wherewithal to own a personal protection dog, from time to time, those dogs need to be reworked, and they need practice. So we have certified decoys, and what that means is people that are trained to get bitten.
Rick, you looking for a part-time job? Trained to be bitten?
Not me.
I don't know, Rick. You look like the decoy type. You look like the guy that would jump right in there and say, "Come on and get some."
It'd be interesting, but I've seen what some of those dogs can do to those decoys, and I could just see one of those dogs just handling me.
They do. You know,
I would imagine.
Oh yeah, I'm 235 pounds. If my wife's listening, that's the truth. 235 pounds, and I get taken off my feet regularly. So personal protection dogs, we also work with police canines. We do scent work, which runs the gamut from search and rescue to drug work, things of that nature. So, and we can get dogs ready to recertify for any of those things with police departments. And we have very good decoys. A lot of people can put a sleeve on and be bitten, or put a suit on and get bitten, but to train a dog in grip development and to teach the dog the right way to defend and protect its owner or its canine partner, be that a serviceman or a police officer, that's somewhat different than just the novice putting on a sleeve. And well, it's demonstrably different. So we have really good decoys, myself, and we have two others, my son and Travis Wheeler, that are excellent at what they do. So we can just do anything. I say we can do anything. We try to do everything. From obedience, pet dogs, work a lot of pet dogs. Basic obedience, off-leash obedience, which is advanced, so that you can take your dog anywhere you want to take your dog off-leash. And that's a real awesome thing, to have the freedom of your dog being obedient enough to be off-leash wherever you go. We also do work with service dogs, training and working with several service dogs right now. PTSD is a big issue the last several years, and we work some dogs for issues of PTSD and anxiety and things of that nature. So just pretty much the full gamut we can we can take care of. And if we can't take care of it, we know someone that can. So we have fingers out everywhere and have a lot of resources from which to draw from. And we also can, if you're looking for a dog or a specific type of dog or a finished dog or a green started dog, we can broker those. We can find you those dogs of pretty much any breed you're looking for.
Mike, what are some of the main breeds that are used as protection dogs? Are there some maybe that we don't typically think about that would make really good protection dogs?
Yes, ma'am. That's a really good question. When we think of bite work dogs, the dogs that come to mind are the Belgian Malinois or the German Shepherds. Those are the two major breeds that people think of. And then maybe the second tier dogs, you have the Dobermans and the Rottweilers.
And second tier, you mean not as popular? Or, okay.
Yes, ma'am, not as popular. But I don't mean not as good. I just mean not as popular. But I will say that German Shepherds and Malinois are the most popular because they're the most, they readily take to the training and to bite work. I mean, when you think about it, we've taught dogs for 6,000 years not to bite human beings. And to say now your job is to be a buffer between me and potentially bad people. And that buffer is going to be your teeth. You're going to bite human beings. So German Shepherds and Malinois that are bred correctly, now, there's something else we're talking about that breeding plays a major part in whether the dog is suitable for defense work, protection work, or not. The vast majority of German Shepherds bred in the United States are not. There are several good breeders that do, but primarily the dogs that we talk about are European-bred dogs. The Malinois, by and large, are Czechoslovakian or Dutch-bred dogs, and the German Shepherds are Czech or German dogs. But then you have your second-tier dogs. When you think of protection dogs, you think of Dobermans and Rottweilers and things like that. But the dogs that I really like to work with and that I get the biggest kick out of are what I call them covert protection dogs, the dogs that are walking around, and you wouldn't think that dog has been protection trained or that it would be a buffer to its owner and step in and risk its life to protect its owner. Well, you have several breeds that are capable of that, or several lines within those breeds, and then you have Airedales, American Bulldogs, a breed that has gotten some bad press over the last 15 years, American Pit Bull Terriers. There's a few lines of those that have some protection qualities. So you have several dogs, giant schnauzers. People see giant schnauzers and no one would think, that's a protection dog. There are some lines of giant schnauzers that are just as nice as any Malinois you'll ever see. So, those are the main ones that come to mind, but there are others,
So if you're looking for a dog to bring into the family, when you're making that initial decision, you pretty much need to decide, is this going to be a dog that I'm going to use for protection, or is this just going to be a companion dog? What age do you need to start training them for protection?
We start basic obedience at 12 weeks old on average. Some dogs are ready a little sooner and some are ready a little later, but that's the average. I am of the mindset that obedience comes first. A protection dog has to be obedient 365 days a year. He may never have to bite a human being, and chances are he won't, right? But we train for that. We train for that possibility that they may have to. But that dog has to be obedient, and he has to be social. What we never, ever, ever want in a protection dog is an indiscriminate bite. We don't want people say accidental bites. I'm also a firearms trainer. And whenever I hear accidental discharge, it really just sends chills up my spine because that doesn't happen very often. Accidental discharges are almost not a real thing. So accidental bites are almost not a real thing. So we don't want ever a negligent bite. So we want to be sure that dog is social, at least socially neutral, but we would rather have them socially positive. And what I mean by that is they tend to see most people as good, as okay. We're okay with them. And a neutral dog, they don't really care. They care about their owner, they care about their family, and everybody else is pretty much just walking around, But those dogs have to be social. They have to be obedient 365 days a year. So that's why train obedience first. We lock that down, and then we go into bite work training. And when we start that, we do an evaluation with the dog when they're around 6 months old to see if they have the drives and the nerves to be capable to do bite work. And, not many make it. I'll tell you that if 10 dogs are brought to me, 1 or 2 out of 10 that someone has purchased from what they consider is a reputable breeder, and most are, I guess, but 1 out of 10 or no more than 2 out of 10 have the nerves necessary to stand in that gap and be a buffer between bad people and their owners and their family.
So how do you know? What clues do you have? I know you've done it for many, many years, but...
we look for drives. In the dog world, we like to make up words, much like you did this morning.
Yay.
And the dog world, if you talk to some trainers, there's 40 or 50 different types of drives. There's fight drive, and there's toy drive, and there's play drive, and there's reward drive, and there's all these drives. When in reality, they come down and they're put into 2 buckets, and you have prey drive and defense drive, right? And we check those drives to see if the dogs have the necessary drives first to build, and then we check the nerves. And when I say prey drive is chase, catch, kill. Think of a wolf or a coyote. I want to chase that rabbit, I want to catch that rabbit, and I want to kill that rabbit. Chase, catch, kill. That's prey drive. Defense drive is, again, thinking of a coyote, I'm going to defend my puppies, I'm going to defend my food, and I'm going to defend my pack, right? So those 2 drives are the primary drives that every dog has. Every dog in the world has those 2 drives. Some have one more than the other, and some are pretty balanced. Well, what we want is balanced drives and the ability to be able to channel those drives when necessary. And we say pretty often that prey gets them in the fight and defense keeps them in the fight, right? So we look for those 2 drives necessary to be able to train that puppy to be a personal protection dog. And then we also look for nerves. The nerve issue comes into, are they social? Are they jumpy? Do they have tendencies that would cause an indiscriminate or negligent bite? And if those things are present, no matter how great their drives are, they're a washout. We're not going to train that dog for personal protection. Now, those dogs go on to make great pet dogs, and sometimes they're a visual deterrent, which is sometimes just as important as actual teeth to flesh. But we stop training. We don't train any further than that.
We need to take a quick commercial break. Can you stay with us, Mike? Absolutely. We'll be back here in just a moment. This is your host, Kristi Slaughter, on SuperTalk Saturday mornings. Welcome back. This is your host, Kristi Slaughter, on SuperTalk Saturday mornings, WFHG. I'm joined back with my special guest, Mike Wright from Trained Wright, as in WRIGHT, yes, K9. Thank you for staying with us. During the commercial break, we were talking a little bit about protection dogs, and I think some people maybe have this conception that dogs, protection dogs in particular, who are trained to bite are mean dogs or aggressive dogs, or maybe they're not safe to have around children. Those are some myths that I would love it if we could talk about. And then I'm curious, when you were discussing that maybe only a small percentage of the dogs that you see are actually created to be a protection dog, and then you have to give the news to the people that this dog that you thought and you had all of your expectations and hopes in being a protection dog is just not going to be something that is going to occur. So talk to me about those couple of things. Okay.
For the first thing that you discussed, a lot of people think that a personal protection dog is mean. He needs to be a mean dog to be a personal protection dog. That's absolutely not the case, nor is that what we want. Sometimes the mean dog mantra is touted by the guys that have a macho gig to fill. That's not what we're looking for with our group. We're looking for a sensible dog that is brave, he's courageous, and only shows aggression either when commanded to or when he ascertains a real threat to his owner or to his family. So that means that 99.9% of the time, this is a social dog that goes around with the family, can go anywhere the family goes, is part of the family, but is still able to be that buffer if something bad were to befall that family. So meanness is not something we look for. Actually, when we talk about mean dogs, there are a few mean dogs. That's true, but meanness usually comes from an aggressive tendency that may stem from fear, or may stem from the wrong type of pressures that was induced during training. We were talking about a trainer that was looking at a dog that I had for sale, and we canceled the sale. And this trainer was evaluating the dog, and he started putting a lot of defensive pressure on the dog, and it was a puppy, an 11-month-old puppy. And I was really disheartened with that, because we don't want to make a biting dog. We want to make a protection dog. We want to make a social family dog that will bite when and if it needs to. So there's a separation there. Much like a firearm is neither good nor bad. It just is. It's an inanimate object. We want to make that dog as close to that as possible, and make it just be a member of the family. Just make it be a social member of the family that's not mean and is not looking for a fight. So that's where we want to be. And the second question, a lot of people that want a personal protection dog, by and large, don't really need one. But they'll come to us and they'll say, I want to do the evaluation. And the evaluation is, it costs money, but they're willing to pay for the evaluation. And then after an hour and a half's time, I tell them, your dog, in my opinion, is not suitable. It does not have the necessary drives and or the nerve tendencies to be a personal protection dog. So it hurts feelings when you've stocked all that time and energy into this puppy and raised him up to this, year and a half old, nice dog, and you're told that he's not ever going to be what you want him to be. That's tough. The problem is maybe they didn't do their research on the front end and obtained a puppy that has the genetics capable to do the job that it was called on to do. So that's what we say. If you're looking for a puppy, if you think you want a personal protection dog and you're willing to do the training from the puppy on up, then we can help you with that, from buying the puppy all the way through. But generally, our recommendation is either buying a green dog that's already got a really good base.
And green dog would be?
A green dog is a dog that has an obedience package locked down, so it's solid in on and off-leash obedience, or at least on leash, and is working toward the off-leash obedience, and has been started in bite work and drive and grip development the correct way. So, and we know what the nerves are, we know what the drives are, and we can see that down the road, if trained properly and taken care of properly, this dog will make a nice personal protection dog and a solid member of the family.
Okay, I'm not sure what percentage of the population has protection dogs. Much larger groups of populations either have sporting dogs or just dogs for companions, pets. So let's examine those two things just a little bit. Any ideas or information that you can give us for selecting either sports dogs, what are great sporting dogs, and then also pet companion dogs?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, pet companion dogs, the lion's share of our work is with pet dogs, and we love them. When you're working with German Shepherds and Malinois all day and you've been thrown around the ring, and then you get 2 or 3 poodles or I have a bloodhound that I'm working doing some man tracking right now. She's adorable. Or a teacup golden doodle. I'm working a teacup golden doodle right now.
Sweet. You could have brought her today, Mike.
That will fit in the palm of your hand. She's adorable. That just kind of, that's almost like the dessert after a really good meal. So, we enjoy the pet dogs, and we love working with them and the obedience stuff. And as far as sport work goes, we're able to train for sport, for agility. We're actually an affiliated Working Dogs of America affiliated club. And what the WDA is, you can go to Working Dogs of America and Google that, and it's an organization of like-minded individuals that has a great structure and a great backbone of people, and we train for agility, protection, scent work, and obedience. And we have trials all across the country, so your dog can obtain titles as you work your way up the ladder. It's a really cool organization, and it's really neat to be able to compete against other people and other dogs, and also just to get that camaraderie of like-minded individuals. It's really a neat deal. It's Working Dogs of America. It's a pretty sweet deal, and we offer that. We offer training for that, and also offer a club that's affiliated and actually holds trials, and that way you can get your dog certified and be able to go to the trials all around the country. It's really neat.
If you don't mind, we're going to take a little break. We've got some news. I have some questions. I'm wondering if you're getting a rescue dog or you're going to a shelter or something like that. What are some of the things that we can look for selecting a great animal? Can you stay with us?
Yes, ma'am.
We'll be back here in just a moment. This is your host, Kristi Slaughter, on SuperTalk Saturday mornings, WFHG 92.9. I'm back. This is your host, Kristi Slaughter, on SuperTalk Saturday morning, WFHG 92.9. It's an interesting morning here in Bristol, Virginia. The sun is shining. We're going to keep it, regardless of the weather report. We are joined back with my special guest, Mike Wright. He is the owner of Trained Wright, WRIGHT K9. Thank you for being here with us in the studio this morning and making the trek in.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great morning.
Before the commercial break, I posed the question, what if we have people that say, there's a lot of dogs that need homes. I would really like to get a rescue dog, find one from a shelter. Maybe there's an abandoned dog that they see somewhere and they want to pick up. What do we need to look for? What are some of the things that maybe can help us to make it the best experience possible and find a dog that makes a good match for our family in general? Sure.
There are a lot of things to consider, I guess, when looking for a dog from a shelter. A couple of things, I guess, are the size and the attitude, and some things we may not think of. For instance, how bad does the dog shed? Is the dog, am I going to have allergy problems? And if that's the case, we generally want to have something that has some poodle or some Airedale or something like that mixed in with it, because that takes away a lot of the shedding. And also poodles and Airedales and several other breeds are hypoallergenic. The dog dander that they produce doesn't react negatively with most people. So if you have a dog allergy, poodles, Airedales, and some other breeds like that, you can research them. And those crosses tend to be less allergenic to people. What we want to look for, I would think, for a family would be, how many people in my family do I have small children? Do I want a puppy? Do I want a grown dog? Do I want a dog that's got behavior problems? I work with some shelter dogs, and many actually, and I love it because you never know what you're going to get, and you're going to get different attitudes. Because when you see a Malinois, I don't recommend Malinois in general as pets for anyone as just pet dogs. By and large, they're high drive and they're a working dog. They need a job. Okay. Some German Shepherds make great pet dogs. The European bred, the working bred German Shepherds do not. They need a job. They have to have something to do, and they don't. If they don't have anything to do, they tend to be a little destructive. They tear up furniture and chew chair legs and things of that nature. But we want to look at breed, size. How many people do I have in my family? What's the attitude of the dog? You want a social dog. I would do my dead level best to try to get a social dog. But, when you go to a shelter, you're kind of buying a pig in a poke. You don't know what the mother and the father are. You don't know how they were taken care of prior to getting that puppy or that dog. And if they have behavior problems, then, you have a couple of choices. You can either try to get some professional training, which I would recommend regardless, just for basic obedience. Always get professional training. But if your dog has a behavior issue, then it definitely needs either training or you're going to have to take that dog back. And we know what that means when dogs are taken back 2 or 3 times. The vast majority of those dogs don't get rehomed. So if your dog has a behavior issue, let's try to fix it. Let's try to work on that and make it better for the family. So that's some of the things that I would look for as far as a shelter dog. And by and large, shelter dogs make great pets. Love to work with them.
What are some of the advantages? I had a dog years ago, and now the dog has passed, but we did some group obedience training, which I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but it didn't turn out great. We had a Dalmatian. The trainer just graduated him just because she didn't want him to come back, I'm pretty sure, but he ended up peeing all over her at the graduation, and it was pretty much a waste of time and money. But what are some of the advantages and things about doing, other than the obvious ones?
Right. Well, we don't, by and large, do group lessons, and the reason is if you don't have engagement from the dog, then you don't have training. If we're not engaged, we're not training. If you're in school and you're listening to the little girl behind you peck her pencil, and you're listening to the conversation over to the right, then the history teacher's talking and you're not getting any of it. So we have to have engagement, and that's why we do private lessons, either at our facility on Old Jonesboro Road, or I'll do an in-home lesson. I'll come to you. And the reason is we want to establish that training time and that attitude in both the owner and the dog so that they understand it's time to work. Just like when the school bell rings, it's time to go to work. Well, when it's training time, it's time to work. In group lessons, you've got 12, 14, 15 dogs around there in a circle. You're not going to get a lot of engagement ever, So, and if you don't have engagement, you're not training. So that's why, by and large, we don't do group lessons.
Yeah, he was very engaged in the other dogs.
Exactly.
But just not in doing what we needed. And It didn't seem like any amount of treat, nothing would distract him from all the other. I was just hoping he didn't bite another one but he was a great dog.
Sure.
And when he was not around other dogs, he was fine. He loved children. And we did some research. We didn't have a child before we got the Dalmatian, but that was kind of a breed that people have some facts about because they're cute and everybody thinks. But it ended up being a great dog.
Well, when we're training, you talked about no amount of reward would get his mind off of the other dogs, right? We are primarily a reward-based training philosophy, and that's the way we train, with the least amount of compulsion. When I say compulsion, that's correction. The least amount of compulsion necessary to gain the desired result. So primarily reward-based, primarily positive training, okay, with the least amount of negative involved. We all understand that there's no child that was ever raised to be a good, solid adult that didn't have to be corrected at some time or another. Okay, same way in the dog world. And you were talking about no amount of reward. A high-value reward is not necessarily always a piece of chicken or a piece of hot dog. Sometimes it's, it's that little poodle over there that I see that I really want to, go see her. So that's the big reason that we train. Yes, ma'am, that we train.
Before I let you go, I just want to see if quickly you could address one more thing for me. Let's say that somebody has had a companion dog, has been very loving, great with kids, great with other dogs, and then all of a sudden something happens and they start having behavioral issues or the dog starts acting out. What are some of the triggers or things that might cause that people could look at? And where would we go from there?
The first thing that I tell clients when their dog is behaving radically different than the norm is, has the diet changed? Has your routine changed? Has the dog's health changed? Has the dog been acting, urinating, defecating? Is all that the same as it has been? Because by and large, when we have a change in behavior that radical, that the owner says, hey, I don't know what's going on, then something related to health has happened. And, some things we don't know. I had one fella, he found out that his horse got kicked, found out by his neighbor that his horse got kicked, that his dog got kicked by a horse. But up until then, his dog had been acting differently and been snappy. And I was like, well, I feel like something health-related has happened to your dog. And come to find out, the dog had been kicked in the head by a horse. So he had a little brain swelling, and when that kind of subsided, the dog went right back to being the sweetheart that he was. So usually health-related.
And sometimes I assume that people would even get rid of the dog or something like that because they just assume now the dog is not.
That's correct. Well, in the society we live in, we throw away everything. Everything is, the institution of marriage, babies. I don't want to be political, but we tend to want to throw away everything that becomes a little bit of a problem. Instead of trying to work with it or fix that problem, or maybe even modify our lives so that it's not as big of a problem. So I would say, what I would hope is that if you have a problem with your dog, if you have a behavior issue, that you would seek some professional guidance before making a decision that's going to impact that dog's life. So,
thank you so much for sharing with us today. This has been a lot of fun.
I've enjoyed it very much.
Where can people find out more information on what you do, Mike?
You can. I have a Facebook page, Trained Wright K9, and you can reach me at cmwright7153@gmail.com, or you can call my I call it my dog number, 423-646-7153, and I'm available at any time. So just let me know.
Thank you for being here. We'll post that information up after the show. Have a wonderful weekend, Mike.
Excellent. Thank you guys very much.
We're going to be back here in just a few minutes. This is your host, Kristi Slaughter, on SuperTalk Saturday mornings.